If you have not followed his Triple H Horse Racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Good morning and welcome to episode 320 of the HHH Racing Podcast. Thanks for joining us. It is opening day at Santa Anita. Let's go. One of my favorite cards of the year. Thank you so much for joining us. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button on the bottom right hand side of the screen. Hit the notification bell so you know when new content will arrive, and smash that like button below the video player. Plus, I'd love to hear your comments below the video player as well if you watch this later as a replay or listen on our wonderful platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. You can follow me on X at HKravitz on the bottom of the screen, scrolling also my email, hkravitzhorse@gmail.com. Power Pick tip sheet. Look below the video player for information about the Power Pick tip sheet. You only have this week only to subscribe for 2024 at a yearly rate, which means one free month plus Kentucky Derby information. Again, go to Patreon, look below the video player. This is the last week, folks, where you can sign up for a yearly subscription for the whole year and save some money. You can go to our website also, hhhracingpodcast.com, and follow us on Instagram with our scheduled shows up there. Speaking of scheduled shows, tomorrow night, Betting and Boozing, and then Thursday, special show for Gulfstream this Saturday, Pegasus Preview Day with Brian Nadeau, fantastic handicapper and analyst from Gulfstream Park, and yours truly will be live in Florida in the hotel as I'm traveling tomorrow down to the Miami area for a quick 4-day vacation. I will be at Gulfstream every day, and the Saturday card is absolutely outstanding. Before we get to that, we have to talk about today's card at Santa Anita. It's simply one of my favorite cards of the year, featured by the Grade 1 Malibu, many other stakes. We're going to be looking at 8 races, ladies and gentlemen, 8. So we're going to go quickly through the first 3, all graded stakes, and then we'll talk about the late pick 5. We got a lot of people watching. Let's very quickly bring up some comments before I bring on my great co-host. We got Robbie Courtney from Texas. Robbie is here. Hello, Robbie. We've got Katie is here. We have Michael Austin from California. I know Michael's going to be highly interested in this card today. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. Oh, Gary's going to be there also. Gary Calaroso is going to Santa Anita. Man, I've been there before for opening day. I'm not obviously there this year, but it's going to be awesome. I wish I was there. Horsey Dave, who is going to also from Santa Anita. And Horsey Dave, I will see you at Gulfstream apparently this weekend. Excited to see you as well. Look who's here. Patrick Kunzel is also here to pay attention from the Ben and Boozin show. Late happy birthday to Patrick, whose birthday was Sunday. All right, let's get into Smoggy Froggy is here. Let's bring on some very important people to help us out with the card today at Santa Anita. First, from the East Coast of Maryland, Mr. Pete Visco, and from the Saratoga Special and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Mr. Paul Halloran. Guys, welcome to opening day at Santa Anita. How are we doing?
What's going on?
Going to be gambling on a Tuesday. How do you think we're doing?
Terrific.
It's beautiful, guys. Hope you had a nice Christmas. I hope everyone out there had a very Merry Christmas with your family and friends. And Pete, I know you got a birthday coming up on Thursday, so early happy birthday to you.
Thank
Pete.
you.
You're joining us Thursday, obviously for very good reasons, but I'm sure you got some big plans on Thursday.
Yeah, nothing big, just family, dinner, stuff like that. Hopefully open some good presents. We'll see. You know, anything that celebrates me is a great day in my book.
Oh, for sure. And I'm sure you don't get screwed, right? Like, you know, Patrick, I talked to Patrick about the old birthday by near Christmas kind of thing. They do
as a
double up
kid,
right?
As a kid, it used to, I'm sure Patrick feels this, where somebody give you the present and go, this is for Christmas and your birthday. And you just want to say, you know, go screw yourself. But not anymore. Not anymore, because now my wife knows better. She knows I would not be a happy camper if that was the case.
There we go. All right, guys. Well, look, let's get right into it. We got a lot of races to cover. We're going to cover races 3, 5, and 6 very quickly, guys. I'm not even going to show the PPs for those races. Those are stake races outside of the pick 5, and then we'll focus on the pick 5. So let me go ahead and take off our banner. Again, appreciate a lot of people watching. We want to have a lot of comments in the chat. And I also found out, Pete, I don't know if you saw this through StreamYard, but if you're watching this on YouTube, if you can place comments in the YouTube channel and they will show up on our comments, Pete and Paul. So that's a pretty cool feature that's new with StreamYard. So again, if you're watching this through YouTube, you can actually comment below, in the comments section of YouTube for this video, and it will show up through our comments, supposedly, guys. That's what I heard. So again, we got a lot of people listening and watching. We got a huge audience. Are you guys ready to rock and roll?
Let's do it.
Do it. Race 3 is going to start. There's our picks on the bottom of the screen. I forgot to scroll. I forgot to do a scroll. So let me save that here. Okay. Now we're scrolling. Let me show up the entries here very quickly for the race 3 coming up right now. Here we go. There we go. Race 3. This is the San Gabriel Stakes. It's grade 2. It's a 1.8 miles on the turf, $200,000. Always a very nice race every year. You see, this is a field of only 6 this year. Moreline favorite number 2, Easter, for D'Amato and Fresu. Used to be with Chad Brown. Won big last time. Paul and I are going with the 2. Pete, you're going to go up to 4, Miss the Cut, for Sadler and Ortiz.
Yeah, I wound up having a lot of chalky picks today. So I was like, well, one of these chalks I wouldn't mind up beating. And I thought Miss the Cut, at least, if nothing else. I mean, it's getting back on the turf, which he hasn't had the opportunity to show as much since he's been in the U.S. But I thought even the one race at Del Mar, I mean, those were good horses. You're talking about Gold Phoenix, 911 Turbo. I thought those are better horses than I think are in this field. So I thought he ran a good race there, picks up IRAD. I like the fact that obviously this horse has run 1 3/8, 1.5 miles. So the 1 1/8 is going to be no trouble at all. I figure, hey, let's take a shot. If we can beat a little chalky horse early in the card, let's try and do it.
And speaking of chalk, Paul, there's going to be a pretty heavy chalk here in Easter, who I've always been a bit of a fan of, but I thought it was a little disappointing, frankly, for Chad. But whatever's in the D'Amato barn, I'll tell you what, this horse was really impressive last time, beating Hong Kong Harry, who's a superstar out west, has been working well, 8-5. I'm going with Easter also.
Yeah, formerly with Great Motion. I hate to correct the teacher,
apologize.
but that's why I'm here.
I don't think you hate to do that anyway, by the way, Paul.
Well,
I think you enjoy it, actually.
It's Christmas,
It's
Pete.
Christmas,
I'm trying to be polite. Yeah, I'm going to not complicate this race. This horse has been very consistent, but really put it together the last 2. He's run in the U.S. 10 times. 9 of them were good races. The only real stinker was the dinner party on Preakness Day at Pimlico this year. It's kind of a no-show. But the rest of them, and even when you look at the buyers, all in that, low to mid-90s, and then jumps up to 96 and then 99 last time. So I just think this horse is in form. It's 3rd off the layoff. It's 2nd for D'Amato. The horse is 2 for 2 since going west, and we know very well that turf horses who go east to west typically do well. So I would be, if I play the early pick 5, which I likely will, this horse will be a stone cold single, as they say in the business.
Paul Conlon is in the Dakotas, and they're getting some really bad weather. He's in the middle of an ice storm. He's got no power, no heat, but he's got his phone plugged in so he can listen to our podcast. That's how you do it, Paul. There you go. Spare no expense. Paul, stay safe out there. I know the weather in the Dakotas is a little bit shaky. Guys, I am going to Easter, but I just want to mention Tio Magico, who's the only early speed in this race. He's the other D'Amato. And he's been working lights out, guys, with B+. I've actually got the workout report here on my phone. So I have some information you guys probably don't have. He's been getting B+ workouts. He looks like he's lone speed. I think Tio Magico is very dangerous in this spot, but I am going to go with Easter on top. I don't see anything else, frankly, other than 2-5, although I respect your pick, Pete, with Miss the Cut. I'm just not so sure that he's better than the other 2. Let's go to the next race, guys, as I'm scrolling down. Race 5 is the next race we're going to talk about. Again, the first 3 races here, ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to show the PPs, and then we're going to deep dive into the late pick 5. Let me go ahead and switch the banner right now here in just a second. Actually, I'll be doing that in just a minute. Race 5 is the grade 1. There are a few grade 1s on the card. This is the grade 1 American Oaks. It is $300,000. They're going down the hill originally, at first. It's 1.25 miles. This is for restricted 3-year-olds. It's always a nice race. It's a field of 7. The morning line favorite is the number 2 Anisette for 1 of 2 for Leonard Powell. Rispoli 8-5. You see our picks on the screen. Only one of us are going with that horse. And guys, I also want to mention very quickly, and Paul, you could probably speak to this as well. The field size are a little bit small, guys. There were some travel issues, not with weather, but Paul, as you know, Tex Sutton, who used to be a carrier for a lot of horses, is out of business. And horses now have to ship through FedEx and other ways. And no surprise, Paul, I hear FedEx is a little busy this time of year. And unfortunately, some horses were not able to travel out west for this card. And the ones that did had to van, like Damon's Mound, we'll talk about later, van more than 24 hours all the way from the Midwest. It's a damn shame, Paul, that we can't get Tex Sutton back or get bigger fields for this day.
Yeah, some little kid in Iowa's got to get a stuffed teddy bear, and we can't get a grade 1 horse to California. What the hell's wrong with this? Okay, screw the little kid in Iowa, leave the teddy bear home, and ship the horses. Yeah, I did hear that, and that's too bad because hopefully Junior Alvarado did not have to drive from New York or Florida. He is on Damon's Mound. Junior has, I think, 4 mounts on the card out there. But as we say,
though, in this race, Paul, you're going to be your best.
I am going to be your best. I am kind of Pete's thinking on the last race. Anisette looks formidable. I just think that I'm throwing out the last race, the Twilight Derby, which of course we saw as one of the prelims on Breeders' Cup Day. This horse did run and lose to Anisette, so hence the difference in price. But Irad stays from the last race. The Paz doesn't run much out here, so obviously thinks there's a reason. There was a reason to have this horse out there, and Anisette, while very, very tough, has lost 2 in a row. So I'm going to try to get a little bit of a price in this race with Be Your Best.
Pete, you're going with Anisette. Like I said, 1 or 2 for Powell. She's just really consistent. 1.25 miles. I suppose it's a question for some of these. I always felt Anisette's a little better of like a closing, like 1 mile and 1 mile 16th. Personally, it's part of the reason why I don't have her on top. But she's very talented and obviously is the horse to beat here.
Yeah, it's tough because if you look at the last 2, so 2 back, you lose to Didia going 1.25 miles, but it's a respectable race against a really good horse. And I think Didia would be probably better than and favored in this field, most likely at her best. And then in that last one, Ruby Nell just got away. And it was one of those weird races where the horse opened up by way too many lengths and it was just sort of over from there. Before that, this horse just doesn't do much wrong. She always gives you a run. I guess that's why she's the 8-5 favorite. So again, in a race where I'm a little lukewarm on most of the field, where there's questions, I did see somebody mention in the chat, and Howard, you're going to get it, where a speed horse can get away. And I think that's the way you beat Anisette. But I think, there you go. Mike said it. Michael said it in the chat, and I'm sure when you talk about your pick, that's where you're gonna wind up going.
Yeah, that's where I'm going. Musical Mischief has some turf breeding, and again, this is a speed play for me here. I just think similar to Tio Magico. I just don't see a lot of speed. The rails are down, obviously, which in theory will help closers, but we'll see. Musical Mischief could be loose. I like Flavian, McCarthy, Anisette, again, the horse to beat, but I think it's mainly those 2. I'm sort of curious to see what Tattori does with the rail horse. I'm not sure how good she is, but I'm sort of curious to see how that horse runs. But to me, it's just 2-7. And again, information for you guys you probably don't have. Be Your Best has gotten B- and then C+ workouts, Paul. I guess that might mean nothing. I don't know. Just food for thought. While Musical Mischief is getting solid B workouts. Again, turf, workouts for turf horses, I don't always take that seriously, but it is just something to consider. I'm very interested in Musical Mischief. I agree with Michael Austin. I'm going 7-1. 1. Let's go to the next race, guys. So I flip over. And again, this is the last race that we're just going to sort of, brush over or touch on briefly. There's our picks on the, whoops, I didn't have the ticker set up for this, guys. Let me do this and let me do this. Sorry about that. It's the last one that we'll be good with. There's our ticker right there. And let's go to race 6. Guys, this race is usually, pretty good field. This year's San Antonio is not real good. I sort of agree with you, Pete. But it's a grade 2. For older horses, they're going a mile and 16th. 3-year-old and up, it's only a field of 6. And you've got a very interesting morning line favorite. And I've got some information on this horse. The morning line favorite is the 5 Subsanador, an Argentine bred. First time in this country for Sadler and Flavian, is 9-5 morning line. You look at Pete and Paul, they are completely tossing out the morning line favorite, which I understand because this is a mystery horse who's coming in from Argentina, but is getting a lot of love in the morning line. Pete, let's go to you first. You're going with the Calbred. Number 3, Brickyard Ride, who is that right, Pete?
No, yes, yeah. I was just.
Okay.
I'm gonna tell you why in a second. Yeah.
Okay, it's got to be a comment. But anyway, Pete's going with Brickyard Ride, who is a very fast California bred, taking the blinkers off. One of the longest prices in this field, Pete.
Yeah, I did not like. Not that I didn't like the field. I think it's a pretty even race. I just didn't. Nobody jumped out. I thought everyone had their own questions to deal with, and in the end, in my mind was like, you know what? I'm gonna take a shot with some speed when there isn't a ton of speed. Where I guess it depends on what Stiletto Boy maybe does from the rail. But if Brickyard Ride can just get out, and again, Brickyard Ride is generally sprinting, so who knows if it'll translate. But the race 3 back in the San Diego going the mile and the 16th, I thought was encouraging because I think Senor Buscador and Slow Down Andy are much better than anyone in this field, except maybe Stiletto Boy when he's at his best. The blinkers come off, which is a weird little thing for a speed horse, but I figure I'm going to take a price where I don't necessarily love the favorite. The one horse who I'm sure we'll talk about has its own questions in terms of whether he's just in his form. Salesman I didn't love. I'm like, I like Newgrange a bit, but don't trust the horse. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go with speed and see if we can, and if Humberto can hold on and take them all the way around.
Yeah, I get it. Brickyard Ride, again, this is just food for thought, people. You can take this for what it's worth. DRF workout reports, last 2 have been C+ and B-, and apparently with the blinks off in the morning, Pete still has not settled this horse down. This horse just a runoff, and sometimes can run some big races. Paul, you're going with the 4 Newgrange, D'Amato, Ortiz in the ride all day at Santa Anita today.
Yeah, I like Brickyard Ride, kind of a horse for course, 3 for 5. Yeah, I didn't know what to do with the 5. Again, I'll tell you one thing. At 9-5, aren't you supposed to try to beat the 5? And if he beats you, you applaud in Spanish. Congratulate him in Spanish.
Ole! Ole!
5. The horse has lost. The horse has lost twice. 5 times. Twice off layoffs. His career debut, ostensibly off a layoff, and then last December last year at this time, although that was a turf race. Again, John White knows what he's doing, so he's obviously expecting this horse to take action. I guess in a pick 5 sequence, which fortunately this race is not. I would play him defensively, but in the body of the race, I'll try to beat him. I think Newgrange is kind of an all or nothing horse. You look at his stats; he wins 5 and no seconds. Does have 4 thirds. This horse was a Baffert horse. Went to D'Amato. I think this horse is got some decent talent, like Santa Anita, and I don't hate Pete's pick either. I've been a big Brickyard Ride fan. I know he does not appear to be in form, but 10 for 15 at Santa Anita, 13 for 15 on the board. And last point, Howard, and I am a big fan of the DRF workout reports, as you know. But if you're playing Santa Anita, you may want to look at Andy Harrington as well, because clearly the best workout. And that's no disrespect to DRF. I think those guys are great. But Andy Harrington is kind of in a class by himself on West Coast workout.
I actually agree with you. I think Andy Harrington does have the best clocker reports. Bruno's got some good clocker reports as well. Guys, let me give you, everyone out there, some information on Subsanador. And Michael Lawson in the chat already touched on it. Guys, I deep dive and do my homework. Subsanador was a very nice horse in South America. Let's talk about what he's done here since. He's actually been here quite a while. Sadler has taken over the training of this horse, and I think this horse is very well meant. He has his last 3 works, guys, B+ and then 2 A-, and you almost never see A- in the workout report. And I'm like, you know what? I got to see if I can watch these workouts. Guys, I did. I went to XBTV and I watched all 3 workouts. This horse is going to be about mid-pack. He's not like a major speed horse, guys. Based on what I've seen, he's going to sit off the speed. He has got a serious closing kick. And I think he's going to blow by this field late. I really do. I think this is a nice horse. Newgrange, I looked at carefully because he's 3 for 5, right, guys? He's 3 for 5 at Santa Anita. I've had enough of this horse. He's not as good lately. I don't think Brickyard Ride gets the distance. Stiletto Boy to me is by far the other one that could fire. Ed Moser said that Stiletto Boy was a little bit tired. They traveled him a lot throughout the country. He's now been rested up. He's been working well. He's based at Golden Gate, so I don't really worry about the fact he's working over synthetic. To me, it's 1-5. I'm completely against Brickyard Ride and Newgrange. And Salesman, guys, don't sleep on this horse. Paul, we saw this horse win big at Breeders' Cup weekend. I know it was a mile and 3/4. I don't know, how good he is, but he is sort of the up-and-coming horse to me. I've just had enough of Brickyard Ride and Newgrange. Again, full respect to your guys' picks. I think Subsanador is going to blow by this field late. I think this is a serious horse based on workouts. We're going to see, because if he wins well, guys, this is a serious handicap horse for 2024 and one to look out for, including maybe, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, but maybe Breeders' Cup Classic material because it is in California. We'll see how good he is. It's going to be very interesting to see. Any final thoughts, guys? It's a pretty open race if you don't believe in Subsanador, either one of you.
Yeah, no, I mean, you'd love to see that horse come here and be great, because the handicap division is going to need a little bit of punch to it this year, because we don't have a ton going into the year. So I actually hope you're right, because this isn't a race I'd be all excited about betting anyway. This would be maybe just more of a watch. And again, like you said, Paul, it's not in the sequence, so that's good, unless you're playing the kicks off the pick 6, right? This one. So if you're playing the pick 6, you got to come up with something. But other than that, you can just watch and see what happens. Yeah, Stiletto Boy is just, it's so hard off those 2 miserable. I mean, one was Vandoff and one was just miserable. And even with the works, it's just tough. But I think on class, that's a quality horse. And if you can get a price on him against this field, in theory, he's just pretty talented compared to the rest of them.
All right, guys, let's get into the pick 5. We have a ton of people watching. Wow. We have hundreds of people watching. Thank you very much for watching the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm here with co-hosts Pete Visco and Paul Halloran. We are covering the fantastic opening day card at Santa Anita. Please make sure, if you're new to the show, smash that subscribe button, the bottom right-hand side of the screen, and hit the notification bell and the like button as well. And look below our video player for all information about our Power Picks tip sheet. All right, guys, let's get into the late pick 5 right now. Here we go. The late pick 5 starts at 2 o'clock local time, 5 o'clock Eastern. It starts with a race that is not a stake race. It's an allowance race. But you know what, guys? We are going down the hill. I love the down the hill races. 6.5. It's an allowance race. You can see the field of 10. Very nice field there. The morning line favorite is the number 7, Booksmart, a fast Calbred for Hess and Maldonado. Now, guys, if you find out about scratches, let me know. I don't think we have scratches in yet officially, although someone said there was a scratch already. Maybe that was an early morning scratch. But if scratches come in, anyone in the chat, please let us know. Let me go ahead and bring up the banners and our picks to open up the pick 5. There they are at the bottom of the screen. Pete and I are going with the 7. Paul is going with the 5. Paul, let's start with you. You're going to go with number 5, Hawker, for Sadler and JJ Hernandez.
Yeah, I'm really glad this is the first race of the sequence, Howard, because I'll then have the option of playing the pick 4. when I invariably get knocked out. This is a tough race, and I thought Hawker had some value. I almost picked a 6 with Dettori. Dettori is very good everywhere, but it's proven to be especially good down the hill. But the horse is a little camera shy. Kristen Mulhall's horse, King Apollo, so I placed that horse second. Hawker is coming off 2 not rousing efforts. I do like cutbacks going down the hill. He's cutting back from 1 mile and a 16th. Has won on the Santa Anita turf course, but it's about as tepid a pick as I could offer. I liked the price in what I think is a wide open race.
I do like the turn back, and it feels, Pete, you don't have this one anywhere. I've got him third, Paul. It feels like, Paul, this is one of the few that can actually take a step forward. He's only 3 years old, costs $675. I don't know if there's enough early speed to set it up, and the numbers look a little bit light. I have a feeling this horse could take a step forward, though, Paul. I agree with you.
Yeah, and I like the fact that Juan Hernandez gets on as well, who's the top California-based jockey, although I guess if we count Frankie now as a California-based jockey, that would no longer be the case. But Hernandez certainly has been outstanding out there the last few years. And then you got what I think is as good a turf rider as there is around, Flavian Pratt on the 4, who I also have in the mix. But wide open race. You guys could talk about the 7. I didn't use the 7. The 7 is obviously very formidable. 4 in a row with a 99 buyer. So, what do I know?
The 4 has time for him. Again, I'm looking at this a lot more, Pete. The 4's got time forms of 101 and 107, but the buyers are in the mid 80s. But the 5 has got time form ratings just as good as the 4, but lower buyers. So again, Pete, we've talked about these speed rating issues. If you believe in time form or buyers, they sort of disagree with Hawker, but they don't really disagree with the 4. So I don't know, maybe someone's going to have a beef with the 4. But anyway, that's interesting, Pete, right? I mean, what do you do with the 5? Is he really as good as the 4? Not by the buyers, but by time form he is.
Well, and that's why figures are tough, and they're more of a guideline than anything. Yeah. But you have to look at, I guess it depends on what you can. Some people just like one figure more than the other, and they're going to lean on those. I sort of do it like you were just talking about, where do I see differences or do I see similarities where, like you just said, maybe a horse who people always generally lean on the buyer. Maybe there's a horse who looks closer and it's just stuff that they did stuff that buyer doesn't take into account, or the race went in a way where buyer doesn't take into account. So it looks a little bit different. So I think it's a useful tool to look at it that way.
What's also useful, Pete, is to look at the time form, a pace set up here on the right, which everyone sees. They have the 7. Now, it does not say a slow pace, but it does say 7 with a pretty clear early lead. And I will show, out of respect to Craig Mulkowski, and time form does a great job. In the finishing positions, they have 7-4-6. Again, that's just time form's opinion, which is based on their speed rating, but also pace projector as well. So they're going 7-4-6. Pete, I don't know if the 7 is going to get the distance. It's my only concern, because he's been going 6 and then 5, but he just looks loose. He's in great form. I mean, it looks like he's just going to wire the field if he breaks. If he gets the distance, he's definitely wiring this field.
Yeah, and that, I mean, it's tough because the horse was obviously pretty good before the claim and had, 2 pretty easy wins before the claim, then gets the claim, moves to Hess. Just from a speed figure, just from a buyer standpoint, makes that nice jump 2 back. But again, what we were talking about from a time form standpoint wasn't so good, was actually more in line with what he had been doing prior. And then that last one, both just, put this horse back on the turf where he had run before, but not very successfully, and now takes a huge jump up, buyer top, time form top, whatever you want to use. And again, if you looked at when you were showing time form from a speed standpoint, this one has an early pace of 126. I think the next highest is maybe 98. So just from, if you're using that as a guideline as well, this one just maybe could just get away. And if the horse gets away, it's not like he's going from 6 to 1 mile and an eighth. I mean, it is still just 6 to 6.5, even though 6.5 plays maybe a little long. Here, it's not a huge discrepancy and has won going 6.5 before.
Yeah, he has gone the distance before. And actually, I think it plays shorter because it's downhill, just my personal opinion. If there was other speed in this race, Pete, I'd be totally against this horse. Like, if this horse is going to be pushed early.
That's what I think.
On
Sometimes
paper,
it's just
Pete,
pace advantage. Yeah, it's just
on
pace
paper, it
advantage.
just doesn't look that way, though, right? It just doesn't look that way.
No. That's that. I mean, I get sucked into not following that sometimes, where I don't account for a clear pace advantage, and
Yeah.
I try
Like
and
in New York?
stop my I mean, well, in New York you never know who the hell's getting, the wrong horse gets the pace advantage and just runs around the track there, so who knows. I mean, again, it's a really hard horse just on form to leave off because he just doesn't seem to do anything wrong anymore, so why not?
We got
Hey, doesn't the two isn't the two supposed to go coming off 1,000-yard race and a 5.5 furlong race, and the 10 stuck outside shows some speed? I don't think this 7 is walking to a lead with a pina colada in his hand so easily like you guys do.
I think the 2 more than the 10, but according to the time form, Paul, and that's just what I'm going by, the time form rating on the 2 early is 98 compared to 127. I mean, that is light years apart. So the 2 looks quick on paper, but not according to the ratings. So we'll see. I don't know. Michael Austin's chucking the 7. Look, I get it. I'm not like singling him or anything. I think he's vulnerable if he gets pushed. I think the first, similar to Sibelius, and by the way, good call, Paul, on Sibelius last week. Gilmore did run well, though, in the Gulfstream race. But anyway, I said in the first 5 seconds, we're going to know what's going to happen. I feel the same way here. If 7 gets loose, Pete and Paul, I think he's a winner. If he gets pushed, I don't trust him at all. So I'm definitely going to use others. And by the way, Tom Espinosa's here. Tom has a beef with my joke. Good call, Tom. By the way, speaking of beef, his 49ers last night, oof, boy, they took it up the gigi. Baltimore looked like a Super Bowl champion last night. That didn't help my particular play that I made, but wow. Sorry about that, Tom, with your 49ers. Hopefully they'll bounce back.
Oh, right, his beloved Warriors got beat in the afternoon too. I'd like to say,
ouch.
as the Celtics went west and drubbed the Lakers, which was what a Christmas gift. Seeing the Celtics win and LeBron James lose. Talk about Christmas coming in the late afternoon.
Sounds like a true. We know we joke with Noah Maher, our co-host on Bet and Booze, and West Coast bias. There shows the East Coast bias, the Northeast bias from his beloved Celtics for Paul Haller. All right, guys, let's move on, guys. Next race 8. This is what most people consider the feature of the day. It's the Grade 1 Malibu. Every year, it's always a fantastic race. We have seen superstars win this race year after year. This is 7 furlongs, $300,000. It's restricted for the 3-year-old boys, and Bob Baffert is coming full force in this race. Baffert has 3 in here. The number Speedboat Beach, who we saw in the Breeders' Cup sprint, and Hijazi, a New York bred who cost $1 zillion. The morning line favorite is Speedboat Beach. He's actually a Florida bred. Again, coming off of the Breeders' Cup sprint, where he ran pretty well against 2 just better horses in Elite Power and Gun Night. Let's see who we are going with, gentlemen. There it is at the bottom of the screen. Paul and Pete are going with the number 2, Fort Bragg, a horse I've chased a bunch of times over the summer, and I'm going with another Baffert, Hijazi. None of us are going with Speedboat Beach. Let's hear first from Pete. Pete, you're going with Fort Bragg. Ortiz has the mountain here.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Speedboat Beach as a horse, and I actually hope if I was just rooting and it had nothing to do with gambling, I would want Speedboat Beach to sort of run away and win this race because I think he has a ton of upside and a ton of talent. Not like some of the others don't, but I just think he's a high quality horse. Fort Bragg, I just think, I like this one. It seems to be best going sort of one turn on a fast track, and that's what we're going to get today. So if you boil it down to something as simple as that, picks up Irad, who I think will work with this horse because this horse is tactical, can sit just off. So I think Irad can sort of time himself based on what Speedboat Beach does up front, what other speed goes out up front, if at all. So I think Fort Bragg at his best can beat this field. He's just had, when it's on and off track, if you see 2 and 3 back, he just wasn't at his best, and it was a little bit wet. He didn't seem to like it. You put this horse on a fast track, you put him at one turn, you give him a little bit of a target. I think he might be okay.
He was really good in Dwyer running down Saudi Crown in an absolute throwdown
Yeah.
at Belmont on faster. And let's look at the pace projector, because this is huge, right? Because this is going to be very interesting to see what happens with all these Bafferts. Now, the time for pace projector's got a fast pace. I don't think any of us are surprised by that, guys. And they've got Damon's Mound actually out kicking the Bafferts early with Speedboat Beach and the 6, who's another bit of a price in this race. But they do have a fast pace, Pete. Do you think Damon's Mound can actually clear? Because that's what time form says.
I mean, yeah, I guess so. I guess it also, because he's been a part of, if you look at his PPs, he's been a part of, and where he's been close to or right on some pretty hot paces. So we know, if you scroll down, if you look 3 back there, he was sitting just off. He didn't necessarily clear, but he was sitting off a pretty hot pace there. In the last race, he was in the midst of a pretty hot pace. So when he wants to go, he can go. I get a little puzzled because I think Speedboat Beach is best just going and trying to run them off their feet. But if Damon's Mound does come from the outside and tries to push the Speedboat Beach a bit, then Pratt's going to have to make a decision. Do I go and maybe use my best weapon, which might be speed, or do I let him go and think I'm better than him and can sit off like he did, maybe sort of 2 back and 3 back?
Guys, this horse is having the lead, right? I cannot see Damon's Mound having the lead over this horse, Paul. I just don't see it. And Paul, you're also going with Fort Bragg. I think the reason why I'm showing a little bias, I've chased Fort Bragg a little bit. He's been disappointing. Pete, you do make a good point with the surface. Maybe he just wants fast dirt. And I think Irad's going to set a great trip off the speed. So Fort Bragg is a very strong second choice for me. And that is your top choice also, Paul.
He is. I will tell you one thing, though. I would love to see Damon's Mound. Regardless of whom I bet, I will be rooting for Damon's Mound with both hands, both feet. I like Michelle Lovell. I love Junior. I'll tell you one thing. If the time form is correct, you better use this horse. This horse is a tough customer. Okay, this horse is not going to chuck it in. Now, I, like you, Howard, I question the 5 getting to an easy lead with the 3 in the race. And I actually think the 3 might be one of those horses similar to Gunite, who's a speed horse who might actually be better at 7 than 6, gets to extend a little bit on the lead. But I will tell you one thing. If that circumstance, the time form projects occurs, the 5, they better do some running. Now Baffert's got 3, so you figure they're not going to beat the hell out of each other. And, Hazaji also has speed and gets to sit outside of all the horses we just mentioned, which is where you want to be. So it's going to be
Hijazi, Paul, not Hazaji, but either one. That's okay.
Yeah, he's fast too. Yeah, correct.
You didn't catch that, Pete. I don't think.
I caught him. I don't like to interrupt Paul when he's on a roll like this.
I know.
Here.
Just small mispronunciation, Paul. Go ahead. Sorry.
His Hijazi presents a dilemma. Presents a dilemma. A New York bred trained by Baffert.
Dilemma
anyway,
for who?
For me.
Okay.
Because I always root for the New York breds.
I know.
So yeah. I thought Speedboat Beach ran, as you said, Howard. I thought he ran well. I didn't think he had any chance to win the sprint. No disrespect, Howard. I know. I just thought Elite Power was among the most likely winners on the day. But and frankly, and let's call it the way it is, and Mike Smith's one of the greatest of all time, but at this point in their respective careers, this is a big jockey upgrade to Flavien Prat.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Mike in a grade 1. Wow.
I look at this point in their careers.
Yeah, I agree.
Bill
Kelly, guys, on the bottom of the screen. Bill Kelly brings up a good point. The bottom of the screen. This is what I said. And Bill, you're correct. Heard all the horses from the Midwest have vanned in, but not able to work at Santa Anita. due to track closures, no works since
Ugh.
12/15 in Kentucky. They had some rain also in California, guys, earlier or late last week. So he is correct. And that's why, like a horse like Raise Cane, which I'll talk about my play here in a minute, I'd like a lot if it weren't for that. But let me talk about this race, guys. I'm going to go full screen for emphasis. I have two strong opinions in this race, and they're very strong opinions. And I could be right or could be wrong. I am completely against Speedboat Beach in this spot. I don't think this horse wants any further than 6 furlongs, and he is going to get pressed by Damon's Mound or the 6 or the 7. I don't like Speedboat Beach at all. He's going to be an extreme backup for me. The horse I really like, guys, and I am going to be playing a lot of my pick 5 around this horse, as you'll see on my picks, is the number 7, Hijazi. I love Hijazi in this spot, and I'll tell you why, guys. When he won last time, he was in hand the last 16th. Now, that was the race, guys. Paul, if you remember this, that was the last race on Friday, Breeders' Cup weekend, with a horse called Bus Buzz, who is a very fast California horse who went to the lead. Hijazi tracked, which I like a lot. Unfortunately, Bus Buzz got injured and had to be pulled up. He is okay. I think he had surgery. And it wasn't the toughest field, but guys, I love the fact that he rated really for the first time off of speed. This horse costs $3.5 million. I love the fact he's outside the other speed guys. I like JJ. I don't think Hijazi's going to the lead. And his workouts, again, I'm probably privy to more information than a lot of people out there. He has gotten B+ and A- workouts. I know Baffert always works well, guys. His workouts, and I've seen them, have been unbelievable. It looks like he's learning to rate, guys. I think he's finally, coming up to the talent of his price tag. I will be stone cold singling Hijazi in this race. I'm going to use others as stream backups. I'm just going to go for it here. I love Hijazi. Quick thoughts on this horse, either one of you, then we'll move on.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Actually, on one of the, I was listening to the In the Money Media pod previewing this card and previewing the I think all the races, or at least all the stakes races, and then the late pick 5. I forget who it was. One of the Santa Anita guys who was on there talked about how Hijazi, prior to, back in April, back in early in the year, was much smaller and just looked like a different horse. And then when he came back from sort of his little layoff here, which has been substantial, actually, said he just looked bigger, more filled out, stronger. And that's when he ran that last race. So, I mean, this was a well thought of horse. Everyone expected this horse to be the next big thing and wasn't. And now maybe if, like you said, if he's sort of learned a little bit and he's filled out and he's just bigger and stronger late in his 3-year-old year, then this could be his coming out party. So I'm 100% with you. I mean, I think Speedboat Beach is good enough to beat him on the square if Speedboat Beach. But if one thing about Speedboat Beach is funny, if you think about a fast horse, we think of him as fast. All 3 of his wins or all 3 of his races on the dirt, I should say, none of them, they were all blue coated time form. None of them were like super hot paces. So if this pace heats up a bit, it'll be new territory for him. I mean, he's been where he's knocked heads a little bit, but it hasn't been like a super hot pace. And if Damon's Mound goes, then if Hijazi can sit, then I think that's a nice pick.
Yeah, that is my only concern. Raise Cane real quick, guys. This is the closer you want. The problem is I don't know how talented he is, and I'm very concerned about the ship, the van ride and etc. But if this pace melts down, Paul, I think Raise Cane is one's going to pick up the pieces late.
I would agree. Yeah, sprung a huge upset early in the year in the Gotham, which put him on the Derby trail, and then we saw him in the Bluegrass where he lost to that monster Tapit Trice, and then saw him in the Derby where he actually ran respectable in the Derby. Beat how many did he beat? 10 home.
Yeah,
a
little more than half the field. I think it was field.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it ended up with 18, right? Because Forte had a hangnail. But he is the type of horse who needs the right circumstance, Howard. But as Howard, you're laughing. That was good. I'm glad to entertain you. That's why I'm here. he does need the right circumstance. But to your point, if they get crazy and with Len Franco on top, he will be coming.
Yeah, it's a great race. It's intriguing to see. I wish there was some more turnbacks in this race, guys, in a bigger field, but whatever. Anyway, it's a great one, so we'll enjoy it. Let's go on to race 9. Race 9. Let me go ahead and take the banner off the screen and bring up our race 9 banner. Race 9. There's our picks on the bottom of the screen. Paul and I are going at the 4. Pete is going with the 7. It's the Santa Anita Mathis Mile Stakes, Grade 2, for 3-year-olds restricted. On the turf, $200,000, field of 7, Moorline favorite, slight favorite, the number 4, Almendaris, a British bred for D'Amato, and Pratt 2-1. Paul, you and I are going with this favorite.
Yes, and I'm finally glad to be on the side of Uncle Howard. I was hoping we didn't get through the sequence going against each other for all 5 races. It would have ruined my Christmas, New Year's, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, everything. I like being with
nice,
Uncle
Paul.
Howard. Yes. I just think most consistent, best last race speed figure, best turf jockey, coming off a win, 2 for 4 in the U.S. Now, the 2 he lost were graded stakes, and this is a graded stake, but I mean, isn't this a grade 2 in name only? And looking at the PPs, I mean, though the one is consistently run graded stakes, not that well, but in the 2. But I just think that I don't love the race, but I think the 4 is the most likely winner.
I agree. I don't think he towers over the field. I think this is the kind of race that's very trip dependent. But I think he's consistent. By the way, last time, guys, he beat older. That I give a horse extra credit for that, a 3-year-old. Although this time of year they're basically 4 anyway. But I do think that was an impressive win and really jumped up in the buyer as well, Paul, up to a 95 and a 118 time for him. So with any reasonable trip, I think the 4 is gonna be very tough.
Can I say something on the 4? Oh, I was going to say, can I say something on the 4 real quick? Because a couple things that just they were straddling the line of whether they're important or they don't matter at all was, so the 2 wins in the U.S., both were with Lasix, but they also were at lower company, and they both were going, a mile and a 16, so a little bit shorter. So was it the Lasix? Was it the distance? Was it the company? And then the 2 losses were off Lasix, going a mile and an 1/8. So was it the added distance that was the problem, or was it the fact that they were both grade 2 races? There's just a lot going on in the differences between the 2 wins and the 2 losses, which I was like, well, maybe I can squeeze away to beat a favorite if I'm looking at it that way and say, maybe if it was the Lasix that got him, then maybe that's a way to go against a favorite. But if it was just the fact that there was better company and better horses, and they weren't the best grade 2 races in the world either, they were pretty good.
Yep.
That was just a funny one to me because I'm looking at the different angles and they sort of either contradict each other, or you can look at them in completely different ways depending on how you want to see the horse and where you want to land on the horse.
Pete, before I have you talk about the 7, and Paul, you can talk about the 7 also, I'm going to talk about one of my price plays of the sequence, guys. I am very, very interested in the number 1, Reichwist, and let me explain why. And everyone knows me and knows out there, I'm very happy to take chalk when I think it's warranted, but I also usually like to price shop. Reichwist has been a yin-yang kind of horse in his last 4. He ran 2 races, one in the Twilight Derby and 1 4-back, that could absolutely win this race. And the other 2 ones he didn't run well. But guys, there were excuses. In both the race he didn't run well. He had trouble, was studied, was rank, and had issues. The last race, guys, was completely ridiculous, where the jock didn't really send. He was 4 wide. And then if you watch the replay, we're not going to watch the replay of that race. There's a horse in front of him, guys, that sort of like veered out in front of him and like on the backstretch. And he had like take up and then completely lost all his momentum. But if you go 2 back, he was very competitive. I just want to show the very stretch on the Twilight Derby with Seal Team, who's a horse that I actually had that day. Again, this was at Santa Anita. Watch. Oh, we're not going to see the replay because there was an issue. All right. Well, anyway, what you need to know is there were a bunch of horses coming out of that race, guys, that are in this race. And although Reichwist got a very good trip, he was right there with all of them. And the main thing I like about this horse, 2 things, and we'll move on. There's not a lot of speed in this race, and the time form has this one, I believe, on top, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly. Yeah,
99.
and look, guys, there we go, Pete. Favors front runners with the 1 on the lead and the 4 pretty far back. Again, take that for what it's worth, but to me, that means something. Again, you see that ice cold favors front runners means they think it's going to be a slow pace. And not only that, guys, you want to talk about jockey musical chairs, Paul, you just mentioned with, Mike Smith a few races back. How about Irad taking over for Vasquez, who Vasquez is a very solid rider. He's not Irad. I hope Yakteen tells Irad, just go to the lead. Don't mess around. Let's see how far you can take them. Guys, I don't think Reichquist is that much far off of the 4 Almendares. He's going to be 4 times the price. Anyway, Reichquist is my price play of the entire pick 5 sequence. Pete, let's go to your top pick, number 7, Watsonville, who should show some tactile speed probably right off of Reichquist and get the first jump, Pete.
Yeah, actually, it's funny because on Reichquist, I had the exact same feeling. So I was with you. That one was close to making my ticket because of everything you said. It's just a weird one when you see a horse that's got the highest time form and you hope can get the lead, but has never been on the lead, basically a step in most of his races. So it's always a funny proposition. But going from the rail, I agree with you 100% in a field that I think is kind of weak. But the reason I like Watsonville is exactly what you said. I think he can just sit off, and my note said basically should sit off whoever decides to get the lead. So I don't think Watsonville would get the lead, but I think Watsonville will sit right off. I think the cut back down to 8 furlongs again could help this horse sustain the kick. I think in the last 2 going a mile and an eighth, it was better company as well, like some of these other horses have been in. I think he really, like if you look at the race 2 back in the Twilight Derby, yeah. I mean, really good horses, and even 2 back ran sort of a winning move, but then going that extra eighth of a mile or the extra distance might have sapped it out, and then was also running against pretty good horses. I'm figuring in a race like this, that's a little bit weaker. If he can get a trip sitting just off, then especially if Reichquist isn't good speed, but gets the lead and sort of inherits it, and Watsonville maybe is just better. We don't know because none of them are great. Then I think he could work out the best trip.
That was the 2 back was the SEAL team, was the Reichquist race that we can't
same
watch
one.
because there was an issue. I didn't know what to do with the 7. I respect the 7. He just didn't seem like he finishes the way he should, finishes off races. So, and I also thought the distance in theory would help him, but he's sort of a grindy type, while others like the 4 and 6 are like explosive late kickers. So I don't know. I have the 7 in the mix. I think the 7 can absolutely win. He might trip out, Pete. Paul,
to me, it's trip in a race that I don't really love anybody. I was sort of with Paul where everything was sort of lukewarm in this race, but I'm going with what I think might get the best trip and could maybe outkick because I think the 6, like you mentioned, the 6 I think will be coming from further back, and I think the 4, who doesn't break at all, doesn't really break much, will also be coming from the back. So if you can get the jump and they just can't get to you, great. Or like you said, he doesn't finish and they roll right by him.
Paul, I'm sure you feel the same way about the 7. I just feel like if 7's going to win, he's going to have to move a little bit sooner, Pete and Paul, and like get the jump on these closers because he is sort of a grindy horse. But again, like Pete said very eloquently, Paul, this might be your trip horse of this race, the 7.
Yeah, and I think that race 2 back, he did get the lead, maybe prematurely. He got run over in the stretch, and then that last race was really not bad, and that was obviously not only a grade 1 field, but a much better, much better field than this with Web Slinger and Silver Knot and program trading. So, yeah, I have the 7 on the A line in my ABC.
Okay. I might regret not having the 7 on the A line. I might make a change. We'll see. I got to see what scratches. Guys, the last grade 1, the last graded stake of the card is the penultimate leg of the pick 5. It is race 10. It is the La Brea for the 3-year-old girls. It's the counterpart to the Malibu. They're going 7 furlongs also. 300,000. This is also usually a real nice field. This year's this year's La Brea is a little bit meh to me. But anyway, we'll see what these guys think. It's a wide open betting line from the morning lines, the favorite is the number 9, Clearly Unhinged, for McCarthy and Rispoli. Let's go to our banners and our picks. There they are. And again, race 10, my bad. Race 10. Oh, look at this. We're we're all going with Howell, the number 3 for Cox and Pratt. Pete, let's go to you first. Howell is a horse that I'm a little bit familiar with because I bet last time at Laurel. This is for LNJ Foxwoods, those navy blue and gold silks. Really like those silks. A very talented, lightly raced filly out by Practical Joke out of an Indian Charlie mare, aptly named How. What do you like about this one, Pete?
Yeah, I mean, I like the lightly raced part. Well, I see you went out on a limb by betting him the last out at Laurel at 40 cents. So good on you there, Howard. Nice.
You know me. I'm a risk taker, Pete.
You were taking the Kyle route there with chalking it up. But although I'm saying that, and I think I picked every favorite in every race we've talked about. So
yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, my picks have been garbage today.
You.
Yeah, you don't have to. I know when the poo-poo is out of my face most of the time. But I think this one has upside, which again, in a horse like this, you love Practical Jokes sprinting out of an Indian Charlie mare, which is even better. And I think this one's just super talented, and it's one of those horses that let's let this horse do what she does. She looks like she'll be a great sprinter, and she is. Now, I don't know if she can, like you said, this is a really competitive field. We'll have to see if any of these jump up and become high quality, really high quality, grade 1 horses. We'll see. So I think you got to see how they run here. If we can get a couple to run really big, but I think she has the opportunity. I mean, she broke her maiden she broke her maiden really impressively, comes back in a stakes, wins like a 40-cent horse is supposed to. Been working great since then. It's Cox and Pratt. I mean, there's not a lot not to like. And again, it's a Practical Joke out of Indian Charlie. So let's keep this horse sprinting and see how she progresses.
I got a little quick question, side note, guys. I know it's horrible when horses break down or got issues, but Paul, can we not eliminate the replay to be able to be watched just because a horse gets injured or break down? It's a little bit of a pet peeve of mine. It's a little annoying. I just wanted to go on
I think there could be some type of balance, with the little editing. I mean, I don't need to see the Maple Leaf Mill race ever again.
No, I hear you.
But
I pick 1 second clip and then just show the rest of it.
I agree with you in principle that you could, it would seem like you could edit out the breakdown somewhat easily.
You could even put a little disclaimer on the front and say there was a standard disclaimer that says there was something in this race. If you don't want to watch it, don't. You could do something like that in case people forget that there was something wrong.
60 Minutes, that very objective news magazine, had no problem showing 3 or 4 of them on TV in that very, very well-balanced objective report they put out a few weeks ago.
I mean, if a horse breaks his leg.
With Stuart Janney cheerleading for the opposition. Don't get me started. Let's move on.
If a horse breaks his leg and falls, I get it. But if a horse is pulled up, I don't know. Anyway, I'm not going to go up longer on Howell. I agree with everything you said, Pete. This is the up and comer. I know that this horse is shipping. I'm against shippers in general today at Santa Anita, but I think this one is very good. There's no way in hell we're getting 4-1, by the way. I'd be shocked. And also at the bottom of the screen, you think Speed of the Horse likes the 2? Actually, wow. He's going all 2s?
I like it.
Speed of the Horse. That must be his lucky number. So, okay. Anyway, Paul, do you want to add? Let's talk about Clearly Unhinged, who is
Clearly Unhinged is formidable here, and actually, one of the appealing, and I agree with you on how, but even if you got 3-1, I just think you're getting a relative price on an upside horse, as you and Pete talked about her upside.
Yeah.
Clearly Unhinged. Very consistent. Speaking of breakdowns, ran in that ill-fated test, so that's really a 3rd, but was ahead behind Pretty Mischievous, who is probably going to be the 3-year-old champion female, I would think.
Yes.
So I mean, and had a ship to do it. I think Michael McCarthy obviously thinks highly of the horse. Ran in the filly and mare sprint. Was very much up against it in that field, led by Goodnight Olive, who another couldn't lose horse. But I think those are the two. Those would be if I were trying to get by with only two in a race. Those would be two. Those would be my 2As in the sequence.
Been working pretty
in this
sharp
race.
too since the Breeders' Cup, Paul. She's been a couple of nice works since then. So it looks like she's still in pretty sharp form.
You guys also have the 4 and third, and we're going to move on. I'm not going to talk about the 2 very much, but I will say the 2 is JJ Pete Miller, an improving sort who might wire this field if she can get the distance. I'm a little bit afraid of the 2. It depends on the speed situation, but I wouldn't sleep on the 2 either in this race. I'm just going to show. We're not going to talk, but you guys also have the 4 there a little bit in third. A nice Calbred who is second off a layoff and should sit a nice trip. The LeBray is interesting. I think we all agree it's mainly 3-9 based on what I've seen, but I don't know. It's 3-year-old fillies, guys. I don't just in general. I know it's later in the year. They're pretty much 4-year-olds, but in general, I just don't trust, sprint fillies that are sprinting going 7 at this age level. It just, I don't know. I've lost a lot of times, so I'm going to be spreading a little bit more than you guys, I believe. Let's go to last race, guys. The last race, there it is. You see on the bottom of the screen, this is a very, very tough race to close the sequence. It's not the highest quality race, but the racing secretaries are going to make it difficult on everyone. So let's go ahead to a very interesting last race right now. Our picks on the bottom of the screen. This is a main special on the turf, 1 mile for 2-year-old fillies. Again, main special weight. It's a field of 12. Wow. And a very difficult field. Morning favorite is number 6. Respect the Crown from Mullins and Barrios. And none of us are practically using the 6 at all. I'm going with the 9, Affair. Paul is going with a price shot, first-time starter, American Dreammaker, the 11. And Pete is going with the 8, Flight to Quality. Wow, I don't know where to start. Pete, let's start with you. You're going Flight to Quality with IRAD and D'Amato. Nothing wrong with that combination. 5-1 morning line.
No, I like the combination. I'm excited to talk about the 11. I'm glad Paul picked that horse on top because I like that horse as well when we get to it. But yeah, this was a race I thought was I thought it was wide open. I had zero confidence. I think, you always make fun of me, Howard. I think I had like 5 A's when I went through the first time. But this one, I just thought in the debut probably was a little green. At least showed some run, broke slow to the point where the announcer was the one who said, and Flight to Quality struggles out of the gate or said something, which is never a good sign when it's your horse making a debut.
I can't see replays. I don't know what the hell's going on. Sorry, Pete.
No, that's okay. So this horse broke badly, moved up a little bit, but then sort of drifted back to last. Then showed some run late, was in that Respect the Crown race, didn't take any money at all, but there wasn't much pace. There wasn't a ton of pace there to close into. I feel like this one might get a little better with a little added distance, which we're not getting here. But I think in this one, if IRAD can just break a little better, get this horse at least a little bit closer, it's a D'Amato horse, is going to improve. D'Amato, 26% wins with second-time starters in turf routes at this level, at the maiden special weight level. So in a race that I don't really love anybody, I think this one maybe just had a little bit of the worst of it on debut and could maybe turn that around, but just a little bit of a better trip. And you're getting IRAD to do that with. So I'm not mad at that. And it's a D'Amato horse, which is even better.
Yeah, bred very well. And, IRAD's not going to stick around the last race, Pete, on a horse that can't win. I think that's something people need to at least consider. So I think the 8 is interesting. I'm using him, even though you don't see him in my top 3. Paul, you're going with the 11. I looked at the 11 very closely. This is Rispoli, Michael McCarthy. This is an American Pharaoh filly out of a Tappet mare, Chocolate Souffle. Very interesting. Not getting a lot of love, though, in the morning line, 15-1.
Yeah, so some numbers for my friend Pete. American Pharaoh with 2-year-old first-time starters is only 10%, but American Pharaoh, as we know, has become a much better turf sire. This horse is a half to a horse that has 2 wins on turf. And Michael McCarthy with 2-year-old first-time starters in turf routes is 20% on the win end. How's that, Pete?
I love it. I love it. The only one I added that I had with you was McCarthy, 4 for 10 on the win end, 6 for 10 on the money with first-time starters and turf routes in the past 5 months. So it's been even a little hotter lately with these types.
You add in Rispoli, who's very good with McCarthy. They were winning at 28% at Santa Anita this year. And, I want, in this type of field, I absolutely want a price. I mean, I'm 5 deep in a caveman. I'll be deep in the race. But, as far as playing the race, 15-1, I'm in.
Paul, I don't know if what I'm about to do is illegal, but I'm going to do it anyway. Here's the DRF clock report comments. You ready for this, Paul? You sitting down? On November 6th, acting quite green early, running in place with a C workout. Obviously not very good, right? December 11th workout, another C, still very green, slow start, no match for Real Queen. However, December 19th, the last workout, notice a B as in boy workout, Paul. Noticeable improvement with Rispoli in the irons. Paul, thoughts there? You like that, right?
I'm still in. Yes, I like it a lot. It is noteworthy, a jock working a 2-year-old first-time starter. That's not an accident. That's McCarthy wanting him to ride, and maybe, we don't know. We'll assume it was exercise riders in the other works. Maybe that was it. Maybe he wanted to, but so obviously Rispoli knew he would be riding the horse in the debut. So let's end it with a 15-1 shot.
Well, this is one of those ones that'll be funny because you're looking going, oh, a nice 15-1 shot. I can't wait. And then when the race opens, the horse will be 2-1, and you're like,
he'll go from.
I guess everybody knows.
I
guess everybody knows.
Aggravate me, Pete.
Hey, Paul, the last comment in that workout that I just mentioned, ears pricked on the run out. Just want to mention that was the last workout. Guys, here's my feeling on this race. I know I have the 5 and 3rd. I'm probably going to change my pick. Horses like Respect the Crown that are 0 for 3 that just sort of the number 5 visually, maybe a little bit better. These horses that have run several times, but have run like mid-60s, they don't do it for me, guys. I
could see you not liking the 6 hour when I watched the race because that horse got the God trip in that 6th and then got blown by a horse. So it's one of those where I know you like those kind of to look at those kind of things where you look at that and go, that horse should have won for fun with the trip that she got in that last one and didn't run badly, but just should have held and didn't improve much.
She was 3-2 and 9-5 and losing.
That's what I mean. Yeah, burn a little bit of money.
No, the 6. People can have the 6. Sorry, guys. A fair, the number 9 is really interesting to me. Okay, Mandela, we all know is not great first out. This horse was on the dirt. It was a small field, but lost to Grazia, who's a nice horse. Look at the breeding on the 9. This is a horse by Run Happy, who does very well on the turf out of a blame mare, Scandal. Now, Scandal wasn't much. I mean, obviously it took her time to break her maiden. She wasn't like a superstar or anything, obviously, but she was distance in turf. And to me, that matters, guys. I think that race was simply a prep for the 9. I love that Flavian's on this horse. I know it's going to lower the price. If Flavian works out a trip for a fair, I think a fair is very, very interesting. Probably more like 9-2. And the other one I like is Sea Dancer. Now, I know I just said I don't like 0 for 3s, 0 for 4s. But, Paul, I know you're going to agree with this, and Pete, I assume also. When this horse was losing, it was on the East Coast. And those horses are just better. She was in a stake race. Her race last time was not great. But now this is the Tory and Yachtine. I think we're going to see a step up for Sea Dancer here. So I'm using the 10. I'm going to take a look at the 11, Paul. I just really don't want the 5 and 6 guys in general. I know I have the 5 and 3rd. I think the 5 is the best of the horses that have run like out of that grouping. But in general, I'm against those horses. Pete, I might even use your 8 also. It's a wide open race. I just don't want the 5 and 6. That's my final thoughts. Guys, final thoughts on this race, and then we'll show our pick 5s.
No.
Well, Howard, you showed the Scandal lifetime PPs. I think I had that noted. Interestingly, Scandal was 1 for 16 on turf, but 13 for 16 in the money.
Yeah.
So
a lot of seconds on that sheet, Paul.
There's a lot. Yeah, the type of horse you want to own, as they say, Pete.
Yeah. Yes.
Howard, are you heartened by the fact that one horse you like, what was it, Request, that I'm
Yeah.
wearing the Nyquist hat today, coincidentally? Are you heartened?
That's why I like it. Interesting angle there.
I saw Nyquist a few weeks ago, and I made my Kentucky trip. He's part of that Murderer's Row in the Dolly Stallion Barn with Essential Quality, Medaglia d'Oro, et cetera, Street Sense, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But so
nice.
I hear you, Howard, and that we're thinking the same way. You don't want the 5 and the 6, both of whom will take action, presumably, especially the 6. Yeah. One of the reasons why I landed on the 11. I agree. I don't think we're getting 15, Pete, but I do think that this is the type of race that a horse like the 11 wins. Doesn't mean the 11 is going to win this one, but on paper, it's the type of race.
I might just go 9, 10, 11. Hey, Pete, before I'm going to show Paul's pick 5. Can you look up McCarthy's stats first time out on turf for me? Going a route, aground.
First time turf route.
2-year-old first time starters.
Last
turf,
5 years.
Route 20%.
20%?
I have first time. Well, not 2-year-olds, but first time starters in turf routes is 13, only 27% in the money. But I guess if you change it to 2-year-olds, then it jumps to 20%. So
wow, okay,
yeah,
I might just go 9, 10, 11.
Actually, hold on, real quick, just not
second career start. Dirt to turf. No, that's not. No.
By the way,
no, wrong season. Turf, 2-year-olds, first time maiden roots. Is that what we're talking?
Yes.
6 for 30, 20%.
By the way, it's funny though,
not bad.
3 for 5 wins if you add JJ Hernandez to the mix. So you get.
But it's not JJ, it's Rispoli, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Yeah, you're right. I was looking
Pete,
at
it's a Paisan, Pete. It's Umberto, Pete.
I was looking at McCarthy at Oratium just because that was the first McCarthy that was up in front of me. So I was looking at him for a different horse. My apologies.
All right, so the 11, interesting horse in the last race. Guys,
by the way, 3 Gerwig, real quick, just to stretch out from 5 furlongs to a mile. That horse might just like the added distance just for either an underneath play or maybe just, hey, this race is a crap show. I just wanted to mention that one because it's the only one going from first 2 were at 5 and was sort of a little bit too far back. So, and has a weird time form buyer discrepancy going on there. So just wanted to mention that one.
The number 3 Gerwig at 6 to 1 for Yachtine. Also, that's like Kitten's Joy out of forestry. There's a lot of sprinting on the dam side. So that's why I wasn't sure.
It was a weird one. Yeah, it was a weird one. Yeah. Picking up Paul's guy, Junior. So.
All right, let's go through our pick 5 tickets, guys. Let people get back to their handicapping in their day. Paul's pick 5 on the bottom of the screen, $90. 4, 5, 6 with 2, 3, 7 with 4, 7 with 3, 9 with 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, $90. Paul, excuse me.
Yeah, you could tell how much I liked that last race, despite my talking up the 11. I want some protection, and as I mentioned, the races I would try to get by are in the they're in the middle of the sequence. Not getting by with a single, though. I do not think this is a single type sequence. So trying to get by 2 deep in the 9th and 10th, and then have decent coverage at the beginning and wide open in the end. There's Matt Miller. He is a disciple, a faithful member of the flock.
Yes, he says he'll be using top pick from each of the 3 of you if I can't get by with my team of horse whisperers picking the race. It wasn't meant to me. By the way, Matt cashed big on Spirit Wind, guys, on Saturday at Gulfstream and was very happy to let me know that. So just want to pass that on to you guys. Congrats with Spirit Wind winning the Sugar Swirl, right?
3 to 1. Was that horse 3 to 1?
Yeah, ridiculous.
So.
Yeah,
crazy. All right, so Paul's going deep in the last race. Totally get it. There you see Paul's ticket. Let's go to Pete's ticket right now. Pete is going, Santa gave him an extra $8, similar to Paul. They both must know that Santa guy personally. Pete's going 4, 6, 7 with 2, 3, 7 with 4, 6, 7 with 3, 9 with 3, 5, 8, 11. Pete?
Yeah, my ticket sucks in the sense that it's very chalky, which I don't like. So we need that 11 to win the last race, Paul. But yeah, in the first leg, I just went with sort of the logical ones that we talked about, and then The thing that I probably wouldn't do is in the second leg for the caveman purposes, I have Fort Bragg, Speedboat Beach, and Hijazi. That probably doesn't make the most sense just from a value standpoint. But from a caveman ticket, those are the three that I think have the best shot to win the race. Went a little the same thing in the ninth. I mean, I have half the field almost, and I like Watsonville, but I think it's pretty much wide open. I didn't include Howard's One, which I would do as sort of a B level horse. And I like Howell, and I like Clearly Unhinged in the 10th in the La Brea. So I went a little skinnier there. And then the last leg, which I think is wide open, I had the horse Gerwig that we touched on a little bit ago, Flight to Quality, and then American Dream Maker. And then I threw in the 5 Visually that we didn't talk a ton about that horse, but I was another one. And I just sort of tossed Respect the Crown, and we hope we can get around. Hopefully that horse is the favorite and we can get around her, I think.
Very interesting. Here's my pick 5, and I have a question to end the show, guys, about ticket structure in this pick 5, because I think it's an interesting conversation. I might make a switch. A single for me, guys. What do you think?
You said you were stone cold at
Yes.
the Jazzy, so yeah.
A Juicy.
There you go. I'm going with the New York Baffert, guys. Here's my pick 5: 4, 5, 7 with 7, with 1, 4, 6, 7, with 2, 3, 4, 5, 9. With 5, 9, 10, and I might switch that to 9, 10, 11. I have to think about it. $90. Guys, here's my thinking, and then I have a question for the two of you and anyone out there listening and watching. I love to hear your opinions on this ticket structure. First of all, Hijazi, guys, I want to spread in some other races, and I had to find a single. And Hijazi's not going to be like a big favorite at all. And I'm just going to go for with Hijazi. I'm using others in ABC. Yes, there's a few others that can win. I don't like the shippers in that race. I think it's going to be one of the Bafferts. And I don't like Speedboat Beach. And so now I'm down to 2. And again, why double your ticket when one will do for me? So I'm going to just single Hijazi and hope that he gets the job done. You can see I'm spreading a lot in the La Brea. And then I'm going only 3 deep in the last race. So guys, here's my question. From a ticket structure standpoint, because I think this is interesting. And it's not really based on handicapping. It's more based on math. If I only go 3-9 in the La Brea, who I think are the 2 most likely winners, but I don't have a lot of confidence. If I do that for my ticket, right now I'm 5 by 3, right? That's $15 in the last 2 legs. If I only go 2 deep, I can go 7 or 8 deep and almost buy the turf race on the end. So what do you think is a better strategy for me? Going sort of more chalky in the La Brea and not getting a price and hoping to get a price in the last race, or spreading in the La Brea where I think most people are going to go 3-9 and I maybe can get a decent price in that race and just taking more chances of going thinner in the last race. Thoughts from me and any people out there on that topic of conversation?
Paul, you want to tackle that one first?
Yeah, I would go. Well, look at my ticket. My ticket will answer your question. I think.
All right. There's your ticket.
I think you need the coverage more in the last race.
Yeah, I think the horses in the La Brea look to be a little more reliable. So if you're leaning on a couple, at least you assume they're going to run well. Whereas the ones in the last race, I think that one's just sort of a crapshoot. So I'd rather take the chance and go deeper there. But I don't think it's a cut and dry. Your answer is your answer. I think it's very specific to this sequence and these 2 races. And if you do think you can lean on those 2 in the La Brea, great. I assume you would play some of the other 3 that you have as backups in an ABC scenario. So, but again, if you're just someone who plays caveman, I mean, that's usually the biggest decision you have to make. Which one do you go deep in? Which one do you go a little skinnier in? And
well, the problem though is like if I'm using the 5 is 6 to 1, but like the 6 I hate. So why am I using them? Like I mean, so I guess you could say, well, then throw in others in there, but like, why use middling to lower price horses that you don't like rather than going with horses that are 6 to 1, like the 9 and 10, or maybe even the 11, and just sort of taking a stand and just trying to get to the last race? Then you can always back up with doubles. I mean, it's an interesting conversation. I'm really not sure what I'm going to do, to be honest, guys.
yeah, it's not. I mean, it's a tough choice because, well, so in the La Brea though, the ones that you added, would you go 5 deep, and did you add horses that you really liked with a shot to win, or did you just add some because you thought the top 2 were maybe a little vulnerable?
I don't think anyone stands out in that race.
Yeah.
And I think 3 is the most talented, but it's the first time she's shipping. I just I don't
Yeah.
know. How good is the 9 really? I mean, I don't know. I think the 2
Nobody's
could
great.
absolutely win. The 5, I think there's a little buzz on Royal Spa. I think it's Royal Spa, the 5. I think I ran that race. I don't know, guys. I mean, I don't have a lot of strong opinions in the last race either, other than I don't like certain horses. And in La Brea, there aren't any horses that I don't like, right? But it is a smaller field. So in theory, the turf race is going to get a bigger price. I don't know. That's a great thing about these puzzles. I'll have to think about it.
We can go a little
Let's.
skinnier in the earlier ones too, even if in the first and third leg. I don't know.
There you go. Now,
Yeah.
listen. He might be right, guys. I'm gonna just play the pick 3 instead, because the other races are a lot of fun, and so. Anyway, let's see. I'm just looking at some other comments here. All right, let's go ahead and end the show, guys, because we're getting a little late on time here. Let me bring up the banner, and then I'll let you close out. Pete, thoughts about anything else today? What Gulfstream's running today? Anything else later in the week? Because you're not going to be with us on Thursday. So final thoughts for the week. And Pete, this is our official final Happy New Year for you, since you won't be with us on Thursday.
Yes, happy New Year to everyone. I won't talk to anyone on the show, or at least on screen like this until after the New Year. So I hope everyone has a happy and safe New Year. And today's a great day. I mean, Santa Anita, like Paul said, it's Tuesday, and you're betting races. It doesn't get much better than that. I haven't looked ahead to the weekend, but I'm sure that Gulfstream card is probably. I saw that there were a bunch of graded stakes. I saw that there's some quality in there. So I'm upset that I'm going to be missing that one. But, I'll be celebrating my birthday with the family. So happy New Year to you guys. Happy late Christmas to anyone who we didn't get to talk to on our last show. And we'll see you guys in the new year, 2024.
We will, Pete. Thanks. Paul, final thoughts on Gulfstream, like I said, is running today. Final thoughts on any other news, stories out of Christmas, anything else you want to share?
Yeah, I'll be, I think, focusing my play on Santa Anita today. I really haven't looked at Gulfstream unless they have. What I'm hoping is I'm looking for them to have a card with 12 5-furlong to PETA races. And then I'll definitely play, because those races really are enjoyable to handicap and play. But if they can't go with all to PETA, then I guess I will just stick to Santa Anita, where they're running on dirt, not plastic.
They are off the turf at Gulfstream. A lot of rain.
Oh, that's
yesterday.
more to PETA. Oh no, and there's a mandatory payout in the Woodbine Mohawk Super High Five in the last race. I always play those.
Love Super High Fives, Paul. The best.
Always play. Always go all in the last leg of the Super High Five, no matter what you do.
Really interesting. Okay.
Yes.
My final thoughts are: I love this card at Santa Anita every year. This year's card, I rate it like a BB minus. I just wish the field sizes were bigger, but there's a lot of talent running. I may or may not be playing in a contest today also for Santa Anita, so a live money contest.
Oh, where is that, Howard? Where would that be?
Express Bet.
Oh,
maybe
I like
should talk
contests
after the show, Paul. You want to stay on?
I like contests.
Paul, you want to stay on after the show? We'll talk.
Sure.
All right, we'll stay on. Pete, you're of course welcome, of course, as well. And I'm really excited about Thursday's show, which I will tout, and then we'll end the show. And by the way, again, Pete and Paul, our viewership today has been absolutely awesome. Thank you so much, everyone out there, for joining us. Thursday, tomorrow, Benton and Boozin, first of all. They're going to have a really good show covering Santa Anita Friday with 2 stakes. The Saturday card at Gulfstream, yours truly will be there, of course. The Saturday card, we're going to have Brian Nadeau, fantastic handicapper. He's been on the show with us before. He is the simulcast handicapper for Gulfstream. He's going to be joining us in Florida. I will be in the hotel in Florida, and actually Kyle Roscoe will be helping with the hosting in place of Pete with some of the logistics and whatnot. But ladies and gentlemen, the Saturday Gulfstream card, the last 4 races, Paul and Pete, oh my giddy aunt. Holy cow. That is an unbelievable 4 stakes, including the best horse in trading, O'Connor.
2024 horse of the year is running, right? I mean, come on now. I mean,
O'Connor is running.
Yeah.
But that late pick 4, oh my goodness, what a very difficult sequence that is. So that's it. We'll see everyone tomorrow, Ben Boozin, or us, except for Pete, Thursday. Again, Pete, happy birthday. For my co-hosts, Pete Visco, Paul Halloran. This has been your host, Howard Kravitz, episode 320 of the HHH Racing Podcast. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. Crush your bets on opening day at the great race place in Arcadia, California, Santa Anita. Take care, everyone. Goodbye.
If you have not followed his Triple H Horse Racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.